Hello everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report, this time once again against the Flesh Eater Courts. My friend Nick will be playing them, and we're going to switch the roles this time. As you noticed last time, if you watched the last report, I got butchered, got trounced, got destroyed, decimated, annihilated, however you want to put it. I just lost big time. Didn't even get to the tower. That was the mission. We try to get to a tower, see if it's the right tower, and if it's the right tower, I try to capture it. If not, it's the other tower, and you try to capture that one. Didn't even get to that point. Got killed midway up the field, annihilated. So this time around, we're going to stack the odds against Nick's army. I'm going to get the role of the defender this time. That's a plus. I'll get some more models, including some Skull Takers and a Demon Prince of Tzeentch. That's a plus. And my opponent, Nick, will be handicapping himself by bringing one less model, the Ghoul King, on foot. So hopefully with all these things against him, I will be able to win. So that's the goal here. But we all know, I should say, that the Ghoul Kings do generate a lot of models throughout the game, so it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to be able to just sit back and watch him wilt away. So let's go ahead and jump into deployment. First up are the 10 ghouls. I follow up with 10 halberds in the tower. He throws down some flares. I follow up with some Chaos Warriors with double hand weapons. He then places his Vargulf Courtier, which is probably the nastiest model in his army. I throw down my Demon Prince, hoping that's enough to counteract it. He then has his Horrors make an appearance, and I follow up with either the Skull Takers or the Warriors. I don't remember which one I place right now. He finishes out with his Ghoul King, and then I either place the Warriors or Keikus, probably both since he's out of drops, and we get the thing started. So here's an overview of the board. And just as a reminder, the mission is capture the tower. So there's 2 towers. Whenever one of his units gets within 3 inches of the tower, he rolls a dice. On a 5 or 6, he found the right tower and he needs to try to take it. If not, he made a mistake and it's actually the other tower, and so he needs to adjust his strategies and make his way that way. So here we go, turn 1. The Flesh Eater Courts start off the game, and from the start, you can see how powerful and how synergetic that Vargulf Courtier can be for an army like this. So you roll 6 dice, and for every 5 and 6 you can add a Horror or a Flare to a unit, and then anything but ones you can then decide to add a Ghoul to a Ghoul unit. So from this picture you can see that he rolled up quite a few 5s and 6s, adding 2 Flares to the unit of Flares and 1 Horror to that already existing unit. And that should maybe explain why we started off giving me probably, I think it was a double the amount of wounds, but also almost triple the amount of models, because it's just the ability for the Flesh Eater Courts to bring in more and more models to their existing units is really, really powerful, and you shouldn't be afraid to kind of mismatch it at the beginning, because it's going to even out in turn 1, I think. Not only that, but he's also able to summon a unit of another group of Horrors from the board edge. They're closer to the tower than they are to the house. But yeah, so whereas in the beginning it was very mismatched, like I said, double the amount of wounds, a little over double the amount of models, things are going to even up very fast in this first turn. Other than these reinforcements, the rest of the army just kind of gradually moves forward, with his Flares being the most aggressive of the rest of his line just because they're so much faster. And he does declare a charge of the Flares at my Chaos Warriors with the dual hammers, or dual weapons, and they get into combat, and he does inflict quite a few mortal wounds, but he just generates a lot of attacks in general, and does enough where I end up killing one of his models and putting, I think, another model down to 1 wound. But as you can see, he killed about half of the 12 Chaos Warriors that started there. So the Flares, they're not as, I think, offensively damaging as maybe the Horrors, but they can still pull their own weight. We go into the Pyre Legion first turn and decide that last time I played a little bit too conservatively, so this time I'm going to be hyper aggressive, and so I start pushing everything forward. You can see the Demon Prince moving forward. Then I bring my Halberds out, move Keikus in behind to still control the building to engage those ghouls, and of course I'm still in this combat right here. So I'm being really aggressive because I feel like I need to wipe out whole units at once. That way his Courtier can't refill them. I mean, it's pretty simple logic. That's the idea. Last time I was just too conservative, and I was trying to hunt down the Courtier, but he's kind of tough. So this time I'm going to just focus fire on things And maybe I don't do it as well as I could, but I am being spread across the board just because of the mission. If I could redo it, maybe I would team up on certain units, but that's just how it worked. And so I'm just going to try to be as aggressive and exact and concentrative as I can. And that's why I'm bringing my guys out of the building and whatnot. So overall, I make my charges across the board. We start off with the flayers versus my double-handed weapon guys. I want to try to get as many attacks out of them as I can. And I did very well last turn, so I feel like I can probably do pretty good this time. Unfortunately, it kind of evens out because I did a little bit better than average the first time. So this time I do way below average. So kind of evens that out. He, of course, then attacks with the ghouls, doing not very much damage at all. I strike back and kill half of them. I think about 6 or 7 of the ghouls are killed when I strike. And then he goes ahead and follows through with the flares, and things are just not looking well there. In an attrition battle, he's just better off. He's going to win that 9 times out of 10, I assume. Unfortunately, I don't make the charge with the Demon Prince, but I think that should be probably a fortunate thing, because he probably wouldn't have lived in an extended battle against the Horrors or the Ghoul King. So the Demon Prince in previous editions was pretty good. This time around, he's okay. He's not like he used to be. After the roll-off, the Flesh Eater Court sees the initiative for turn 2, and the most disheartening thing happens. Nick brings back 6 more ghouls. To kill 6 and then have all 6 come right back is just... Man, it's so frustrating, but that's Flesh Eater Courts. The unit that got summoned on last turn from the table edge decides to move towards the tower where Kekus is. We get another look at the combats as they're developing, and the movement on the right side of the table shows the Horrors just bypassing my Demon Prince, and the General also forking off the other way. This leads the Horrors to charge the building, and I believe that this unit's really, really good for this type of role, for charging things in cover, that is. They get rerolls right now because of the king being nearby, and any save I do fail, even though I have a 3+ save, results in 2 wounds, which just out and out kills a single warrior. So even though they don't have any high rend, they're not terribly accurate without the support of the king. In this particular position, I think ghoul horrors, crypt horrors, whatever you want to call them, excel at dislodging units from cover, and we're going to really see how that plays out through the rest of this game. He decides to start off with the ghouls and does a couple wounds, nothing too impressive just yet. I strike back at the flares, which sees one of the flares go down, giving me a false sense of hope that I might win this attrition. He comes back and only kills one of my warriors. This is pretty good. As you saw in the first picture, I did manage to kill off one of the ghouls, and that's the combat I select next. He goes with his ghouls. I meant to say horrors last time, but this time we're at the ghouls. He doesn't really do anything whatsoever, and again I kill 5. He rolls a 6 for fleeing, helping me out with 1 more. So again, I kill another 6 in all going into my next turn, and hopefully that means I can go ahead and finish these guys off so that Courtier can't bring them back up by 6. So here we go into Pyre Legion turn 2, and in the hero phase I am casting magic. That first turn I did try to cast the magic. I have both the Demon Prince, who's a sorcerer, or a wizard I should say, and then the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord, who's also a wizard, and I did try to get those spells off, but I either failed with one of them and or got them dispelled, because he did have a chance to move up and get in range. So this time again I try to summon some demons to no good effect from the Demon Prince, but I do cast one of my favorite spells, actually my favorite spell, Bolt of Change from the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord. We cast it into the ghouls, killing off I think 2 or 3 of them. I don't remember exactly how much, but I do roll up the 4, which allows me to put down a spawn. And I put the spawn here to lock that Courtier in place as best I can. If he really wants to get away, he can retreat, but I'm fine with that. I just want to keep him in the vicinity of my warriors so that I can maybe catch him and engage him in combat. But more importantly, just keep him in this area of the board for as long as possible, because I do not need him moving over to where those horrors and flayers are, and again bringing more guys in. So that's the plan here. That's what I've decided to do. And as you can see here afterwards, Kekus bolts from the tower and is trying to get away, but there's not a lot of safe areas of the board. What I really hope to do is get the next turn, allowing me to move some more and hopefully get away. So we go into charges, which will then lead us into combat, and the first thing I do is charge my Skull Reapers into the Terrorgeist. These, out of both of my Chaos armies, are probably the most adept at killing off monsters or doing a severe amount of wounds to them to make them easy for other units. However, the Terrorgeist heals, so that's always going to be a losing proposition even for them. And so I go in there, I do some wounds. So in the end, they won't really matter because he will heal them back. However, on the bright side, he completely fluffs with the Terrorgeist, and they're left pretty much intact. I think they lose maybe one guy, if any at all. On the flip side, however, we go over to the combat with the Demon Prince against the horrors assaulting the building, and I'm pretty excited. I roll really well, and I'm thinking I might wipe those guys out. However, it doesn't go that way. He rolls some 6s for saves. That's going to happen, especially when he had such poor luck just before, and so we're kind of stuck at a stalemate there. He will go ahead and attack the building. He's going to whittle my guys even more. Again, anytime I don't make a save, that's a whole warrior gone, so it does, take a toll over some time. We go to the combat with the warriors and the halberds against the ghouls, and luckily I finish them all off, so I don't have to worry about them growing back. And then, unfortunately, at the bottom, it was kind of a slow melee, but it kind of picked up right there at the end, and you can see that the last 3 flayers finished off my last 3 warriors. So now Kekus is in a really tough spot. He has the horrors chasing him from behind, and then to his left or north, he has these flayers. So there's not a lot of avenues of escape, even if I do get the next turn, which I don't. So he's in a really bad pickle. In the hero phase, yet another group of horrors comes to the field looking for a good meal. We then go into the movement phase where we see the Varghulf slip away from my warriors. I needed the next turn just to kind of keep this guy from moving that direction, but I didn't. So now he's effectively taken this unit out of the game. They're going to be stuck there, not being able to help out the other tower, which at this point, I know I haven't mentioned it. I guess I was assuming too much. That is the objective. As you can see here, the Flayers leave Kekus to the fate with the horrors and decide to help out in capturing this objective, since this is the most important part of the game. In the rare shooting phase, we have the Terrorgeist scream and kill off one of the Skull Reapers there, and then we go into combat. So the Flayers charge in the building, and with the combined might of those Flayers and the horrors, which I think there's 2 left from that original unit, we have only about half of my warriors left in that building. They're the ones on the hill, if you haven't figured that out yet. That's why they're there, so don't be confused by that. We jump into the combat with Kekus versus the horrors, and surprisingly enough, Kekus lives. So that means I'm going to run away, because there's no way he's going to be able to handle those guys, and if he's going to kill Kekus, I'm not going to let him kill it in my turn. He needs to kill him in his own turn, so we'll let him work for it at least. So we go into my turn, and sure enough, Kekus flies away. I try to summon in some demons with Kekus first. Unsuccessful. The Demon Prince, on the other hand, does manage to summon in the Flamers, who are extremely powerful. I'm looking to shoot and kill this Terrorgeist. I think I've put on a couple of wounds to where it's feasible, so that's what I'm hoping for. Meanwhile, I don't know what to do with my halberds, so they're just kind of wandering around. They're just not going to make it to the other side of the table in time to help out. So I'm really just hoping I can win this attrition battle. But again, we're only in turn 3. And here we have a picture of failure. Just pure, total failure. I shot at this guy with my flamers. I just rolled really poorly. I think I only ended up inflicting 2 wounds, both of which were saved by my opponent. So 0 wounds in the shooting phase. I've used the flamers a lot. They're typically extremely devastating, just not this time. And in combat, he just pulls out that can of whoop ass. So he ends up killing the rest of the Skull Reapers. I'm not even able to inflict mortal wounds in their death. I guess on a brighter note, I'm dying at a much slower rate here in the building, him only being able to inflict 1 wound onto the warriors, or I should say 1 death onto the warriors, but otherwise not a lot to be happy about. So we're going to go in the next turn. I hope I get this next turn, but as you can see, I don't. So here we're going to have some more horrors jump into combat, and we're just going to see if I can live all the way up into turn 6, really. But before we get to turn 6, we really need to talk about turn 4. At this point, turn 4, Nick is really keying into my last flames of hope and quickly extinguishes them. I need reinforcements. My way of getting reinforcements is through summoning, and he's going to stop that quick. So he has his king charge my Demon Prince, and he has those horrors hunt down Kekus and proceeds to kill them both fairly easily. The Demon Prince is just outclassed, and plus there was more horrors around. They do 2 damage each time they inflict a wound. Really no contest. And at that point, we look at the building even. He's killing them down to 2 guys that are left. I just am not going to last another 4 rounds of combat, 2 turns of this kind of onslaught. And I can't bring my other warriors over there in time. And even if I did, I don't think they're equipped to handle all those giant monster guys. So overall, I go ahead and call it, and he wins, and it's a really fun game. I actually thought it was a much closer game than the first time around. And I say that because I think had I approached the mission a little bit more differently, right now I was trying to just defend across the board, having a unit in the center, being able to react either way as the game developed, when I think I would have been better served to have kind of bet against Nick, put all my guys in one area of the board, like at one tower, and then put maybe a token defense at the other. And that would just allow, I benefit more for being more coherent against his army than he does. He doesn't have to be so closely tight together, especially with that courtier in the backfield. And if we're spread out, both of us are spread out, and we get into a game of attrition, he's definitely going to win that. That's his game. So what I needed to do was concentrate my forces more and allow luck to determine if I was going to play defense or need to switch heavily to offense real quick. If it turned out that the token defense building was in fact the building for the mission, I could maybe quickly try to get over there with my whole army together, and maybe take that building before he takes it, if that makes any sense. Like if he were to say, take the building from my token defense. Or if the best case scenario was that he gets to that building and it's not it's actually the more heavily defended one, I'm better served to have all my forces closer together in that type of attrition battle against an army like this, where I can have multiple units on these horrors or on these flayers. But having 1 unit of warriors versus 1 unit of flayers or 1 unit of ghouls is just a mismatch that he can really take advantage of when I deployed like I did across the board pretty evenly. So it's just something to take a note. I think overall the forces were balanced. I didn't really have a problem with the horrors coming in. They were usually they're late to the game. They're not going to contribute too much. They just help if the game's already kind of in the balance, it's going to help tip it into his favor. But if I'm playing well and I'm holding the upper hand, those reinforcements aren't at the rate they're coming on, aren't going to turn the battle that drastically. So that's just my opinion on it. We'll see how the new GW comp system works. I think that's going to be interesting. I'm not completely sold on using that exclusively. I still liked the idea of there being multiple comps that people were using, but undoubtedly, since it is GW and they're sort of the authority on their game, as they should be, I guess, because it is their game, I do have the understanding that people will probably just gravitate to that. So here's hoping that there's multiple comp systems that will continue to flourish, but I wouldn't bet on it. So we'll see. Overall, though, great game. Really, really fun to play. My next couple of games will be against the Jordan. So if you're looking forward to seeing some battle reports with Jordan, I am pleased to bring those towards you, to you. They will be the legitimate Jordan and not the wannabe Slayers. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this battle report. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment below, and I'll see you guys next time.